what's going on? Good morning to half of the planet, and for those of you who are in Japan and Australia, I've got nothing for you. Um, Most of you will probably be watching this after the fact, um, but I've had a pocket here. Um, there is a bunch of things going on. We're about to step into October. That is a very busy month for yours truly, and considering that I still have a lot of movies to watch for that project, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble as far as October is concerned. Um, and the Dexter stuff is kind of it's in the background. There's stuff that I have on well, what there's multiple edits open that things have been tinkered with and thrown into. Doc, what is this thing? I don't know if it's because I'm blind, which is always the answer, but is that a slightly bruised face person? What what is the emotion for that face? Consider blind. So what what does this mean? Because I can't read, like, when people do the purple face that screams, I don't know what that means either. I've gone GIF blind or meme blind or emoji blind. I'm just blind on all fronts. Anyway, so there's a content creator, DJ, who put up a video and did the Dexter YouTube trick of the white or black background with the red box. Cody and I have made fun of it, or had light ribbing at the expense of the Dexter trick on YouTube, where yellow box, excuse me, red box with a font in it that someone knows or something. It's not just one Dexter content creator, but it seems to be something of a gimmick. And shout out to this person. I think what got me into it was the fact that either they did the background black as opposed to the normal white, or vice versa. And I think, like, the gimmick of the image was literally every episode. It wasn't something like misleading, like Deb knew. Like, yeah, yeah, we know. Pseudo clickbaity normally, but literally every episode is clickbaity because apparently this is only seasons 1 through 8. It just labels as orange face with raised eyebrow. More or less, it's my dear God, it's too early for this reaction. Yeah, well, as you can see, it's not for me. It's breakfast time. So we're gonna have a long reaction here. I've got my Cody mug ready. It's funny. I spent an extended weekend with Cody, and I don't have very many pictures or anything to show for him, but I have a mug which doesn't say Cody on it. It says Savannah, Georgia. But whenever I drink out of that mug, I know I spent time with Cody. Not like I would have pictures or anything. The mug is what I use to remember. Well, well, yay for you. Yeah, I'm not trying to gloat. So anyway, this person, it's a 5+ hour video. I sincerely doubt we're going to get all of this done today. I'd like to eat lunch before before this finishes. The sun is over there because it's not over here. Yep, yep. And it's probably already gone in Australia. I don't know. Don't ask me to science. But anyway, I watched a little bit of this video. I was impressed based on the runtime. I have not seen all of it. I still have not seen all of it. I have a notebook. I'm going to be keeping track at the very least of their rankings, and we'll see how much I agree or disagree with. Because there's a big pocket of episodes that are just hazy to me. You'd like to eat lunch before Tuesday. Also true. Yeah, so we're gonna get right to it because this is long, and I'll chime in every now and again. But massive respect. If this person used footage from all of the episodes that they're ranking, I'm not worthy. That is incredible. But let me not get on my knees just yet. So I'm gonna do this now. I think it's gonna start right away, which is not what I wanted to do. That's an apology. Oh, see, I ruined the joke. Yeah, so opening it with a bit of a meme. Yeah, so without further ado, all episodes ranked, content creator named DJ. Caveat being, it's actually seasons 1 through 8, but I think he says that rather early in this video. Here we go.
Surprise,
Dexter is a television crime drama developed by James Manos Jr. and loosely based off of the novel Darkly Dreaming Dexter by Jeff Lindsay. The show follows 35-year-old Dexter Morgan, who lives a double life as a loving boyfriend and brother that works as a blood spatter analyst at Miami Metro PD, and as a cold-blooded vigilante that tracks down and brutally murders the very worst people in the city of Miami. My name is DJ, and today I'm going to be ranking every single episode of this show. You might have seen one of my rankings for Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul in the past. In these videos, I spent the first few minutes talking about some minor gripes I had with decent episodes, then spent the next hour and a half praising the shows. To put it lightly, Dexter is not as perfect as these two shows, and there is much more to criticize here. But since the show is almost 100 episodes long, there's also a great amount to praise as well. At this point, Dexter has gained the reputation of having an incredible first half, then completely dropping the ball with the second. While I don't think anyone genuinely thinks that seasons 5 through 8 are better than seasons 1 through 4, I don't really believe in the concept of the show not being worth it after season 4, because there's some incredible episodes of television in the second half of the series that never really get the credit they deserve.
I would agree with that. But as a whole, if you watch season 1 as a whole, the highs are higher and the lows are higher. The issue with seasons 5 through 8, when they suck, the lows are very, very low. And I would argue maybe a couple of times are the highs, good enough to be somewhere in the middle or, the high end of those first 4 seasons. It is far more inconsistent, or seasons 5 through 8 are consistently inconsistent is the gripe you could have with that. So like there are moments, the 2 seasons more than anything of the second half, we're like into thirds now at this point. But and by thirds I mean New Blood, Original Sin, and now Resurrection. Season 5 leads off with a great idea. Season 5 kind of toys with the idea too of Dexter actually having a partner that he not only does killings with, but also wants to bang, like a complete wholehearted, relationship, a one-upsmanship over Rita. And that's this is sloppy. I think it had potential, but season 3 did the Dexter doing killing with someone that knows better. And I think season 2 did the Dexter having a physical relationship with someone that knows better. I think if you could somehow take the Lila aspect of season 2 and the Miguel aspect of season 3 and make that lumen, I'd be impressed. Plus, as someone who really thought the end of season 4 led for like heavy drama for at least the first half of season 5. It is like one episode and then done. When they've teased dramatic elements a lot in this series, and they kind of take back doors and like shortcuts, which is kind of frustrating because the first 4 seasons, I think for as much as they did take shortcuts then too and back doors, I think seasons 5 through 8, there was a bunch of, wouldn't this be cool? Anyway, here's something else that just gets us out of actually doing this. And the other one is season 7. Season 5 and season 7 are the 2 seasons that at moments are pretty damn strong, but the execution kind of falls off. I think Circo is the strongest antagonist of that second half. I think I prefer Circo over Miguel, if I'm being honest. Like, if you could take Circo and put him in season 3 would be like platinum. And season 3 of the first half is a season that I think it's good, but it's the one I can deal with least. Art Deco says, very happy to be here. Oh, wait. All right, there it is. Happy to be here. Fan of season 5. Huge fan. So much so that you would take it over 1, 2, 3, or 4. Because I am a fan of all Dexter, but I am not going out of my way to watch season 8 before anything else. Like, I just did it recently for the sake of stuff like this, but man, season 8 there's not very many strong parts in season 8. Anywho, where are we?
But there are also some very flawed episodes as well, so I plan to extensively cover and analyze every single one in this video. This ranking does not include Dexter New Blood, Dexter Original Sin, or Dexter Resurrection, which is hopefully still airing when this releases. But once Original Sin and Resurrection end, I would love to rank the spin-off episodes if you guys are interested. I'm also going to refrain from mentioning any huge spoilers for these 3, since I'm aware that these shows are all new and not the most accessible, and most Dexter fans probably haven't seen them, so your only spoiler warning is obviously just for the original Dexter show. With all that being said...
Wait, how do people watch Dexter? If you're a Dexter fan and you're watching now, how have you not watched Original Sin, New Blood? Resurrection makes sense. I know people like to binge stuff. Is it when it's on Netflix or something that you wait for it? Because I know that's what I did with I think Lost. I did that. And there are certain shows that are on Netflix for a little bit and then they're not. And maybe the spin-off stuff isn't on Netflix just yet. This is one of the 2 reasons I have Showtime or Paramount Plus. But it's interesting that he would lump something as old as New Blood with people not being caught up. That's interesting.
Here are all 96 episodes of Dexter ranked from worst to best.
96.
And please buckle up because I did not refrain from making the script long for this video.
Good for you.
Number 96. Remember the Monsters?
Oh.
Say the line!
DJ.
Remember the Monsters is the worst episode of Dexter.
Yay!
Coming as a surprise to absolutely nobody, yes, Remember the Monsters is the worst episode of the show. I was going to try to make a point that this episode wouldn't have been as bad if it wasn't the series finale, but it would still easily be the worst episode if there was an official season 9 instead of New Blood, so scratch that. I thankfully only exposed myself to good television.
Hey, look at that top writing credit.
Most of the time, so I'm proud to say that this is the worst episode of television I've ever seen in my life. And no, I haven't seen Game of Thrones or the ending before you ask, but it's almost a whole star lower than this, so I can only imagine. Now, let's start with the positives, shall we? Joey Quinn? I think the reason why we never got any closure from Quinn in this show is that he carried this episode so fucking hard that it just collapsed on his back by the end and killed him. I'm being serious, this episode would probably be at a 1.5 if it weren't for this guy. All of the scenes of Quinn comforting Deb are just devastating, especially the one where it's revealed that Deb most likely isn't gonna make it, and we see Quinn tearing up. Quinn can get very emotional in this show, hell, he literally spent a whole season being a wreck over a breakup, but we've never seen him cry, and to finally see it when Deb is on her deathbed is amazing. Speaking of Deb, she's really the only other positive I can give to this episode. Deb is by far one of the show's best and most relatable characters, and seeing her like this on her deathbed with no energy or life left in her, it just hurts really bad. Back to Quinn, him trying to beat up Saxon is somehow better than the actual death they give Saxon, and of course, how could we forget?
It's obviously self-defense.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, now, the negatives. In most of my episode reviews, I usually summarize what happens in the episode, but I think you all know the events of this one.
It looks like this guy's using the clips from the episodes, which monumental task. I don't know just yet. We're only one of 96 deep, but if he does have the actual footage from each episode, like I don't think you understand how big a deal that is, or how much much a chore, how much work goes into that. That you're skimming through 96 hours of material and appropriately putting it somewhere for it to make sense visually about what you're talking about. Like, that is a monstrous task. Huge kudos. The link is down in the description. Go over there, give all your praise to that content creator, and throw all the thumbs and subs over there, please. Because I don't know. It would take me years to do something to that level. I was going to say something else, and I forgot. It'll come back to me.
So I'll just talk about everything wrong with it. Problem number 1. There's no way...
Oh, apologies. Deb, the fact that Deb dies and it's this whimper. Considering how many times they've kind of ragdolled the Deb character over this series, the fact that her death kind of is meaningless is such a dick punch. Like, this is what I was talking about earlier about Dexter, when they have these tense, these creative moments to use conflict and drama, and they go for like the shortcut way out, and having relationships that are so meaningful, and what kind of repercussions happen due to certain things happening to valuable characters. Like, they never really have that stuff that like reverberates throughout the series. Like, I mean, I guess when you have the series end and you think that's going to be it, Deb dies, so the series dies, it just doesn't feel anything. Like, some of these characters are important. So you want their purpose to feel equally as important. You want all of this journey to feel worth it. And I don't know, like, you think of Rita going down. What does her demise do to Dexter? Nothing. He's he feels weird for a couple of episodes, and then he's off doing the season 3 blended with the season 2 arc all over again. Like, there's no sort of altering or molding of the character based on these relationships and how some of these events affect these characters. Dexter, I couldn't tell you. Maybe the first couple of seasons there were things that felt like they molded him in a different way. His ability to have relationships at all, I think, is the one thing, and they don't even like kind of harp on that at all. But like, loss doesn't matter to his character, and it's really kind of frustrating. All right, we're gonna have a long way here.
The only thing Dexter could have possibly done at the airport was pretend that Elway dropped a bomb. And there's no way that that's the only way the writers could have had Dexter stay in Miami. I don't even understand why this happens, really. Why couldn't they just have had Dexter about to board the flight with Hannah and Harrison, then he gets a call about Deb and decides to stay himself while Hannah and Harrison go to Argentina? I guess they had to deal with Elway, but it's not like he stopped Hannah from going to Argentina in the end anyways, so why does it even matter?
See, the other thing is, him saying they had to deal with Elway, easy for you to say. No, they didn't. Like, this is part of that like staggered writing style that they did, where it's just like, wouldn't this be cool right now? And then the second question is, well, how do we get out of this? What is the solution to this? I don't know, but this would be really cool right now, right? So let's do the thing that's cool now and not worry about the next episode, even though we have to work on the next episode. It's very frustrating, a lot of those decisions they make. And when it comes up, I will share those other decisions as this list goes on.
Problem number 2. Oliver Saxon's actions in this episode are beyond stupid. First of all, the way he gets a car is by stabbing someone in broad daylight, then stealing his car. Listen, I know there was like a hurricane going on during the scene, so I guess it technically wasn't broad daylight, but you know what I mean. The scene does have a Brian Moser reference, so at least they're reminding us that the show used to have good villains, even if we're subjected to this bullshit now. Then Oliver forces some guy to stitch him up and drive him to Deb's hospital, where Oliver cuts his tongue out, then forces him to go into the hospital as a distraction. Then Oliver somehow gets close to Deb's room, but is suddenly stopped and arrested by Angel right before he was about to fight Dexter. A few things here. First, how the fuck did Oliver think nobody was gonna see him? Did he really think a guy getting his tongue cut out would distract all of Deb's loved ones from the fact that she's about to die? Second, the editing, cinematography, and pacing of this scene is straight ass. This doesn't even feel like a parody of Dexter, it feels like one of those low-budget Sharknado movies. Dexter has never had suspense this bad, and it's the series finale. And last, why couldn't Dexter and Oliver fight here? I mean, if Dexter's gonna kill Oliver, then this would be the perfect place. But no, he just ends up in jail. And that brings me to my next problem. Number 3. Oliver Saxon's death is the second worst death scene in the whole show. Dexter goes in to do a blood test on Oliver, acting like they don't already have so much proof that he did what he did. Then has one final talk with him before Oliver, for some reason, decides to stab Dexter with a pen. Then Dexter takes the pen from him and stabs him in the neck and acts like the victim when the medics come. I know that Dexter did say he was gonna stab Oliver with the pen, but like, why would Oliver do the same to him? Like, does he not know that there's cameras there and he would get even more time for that? It makes no fucking sense. I was perfectly fine with Dexter leaving Saxton for the police in the last episode, but if they're gonna let the guy go, then this is how he goes out? I honestly don't even think Dexter should have killed Saxon, but if he had to, then this was literally the lamest possible way they could have done it. Imagine dying by being stabbed to death with a fucking pen. At least a terrible death is fitting for a terrible character. What's not a fitting death is problem number 4. Deb's death is not only the worst death scene in this entire show, but by far the worst scene in this entire show. Listen, I understand Dexter not wanting to leave Miami with this loose end still there, but this is what he does? What happened to Dexter learning empathy? Becoming normal? Maybe it's just me, but I don't think a normal human reaction is to murder your sister then dump her body in the ocean. After years of us seeing this incredible but complicated relationship between Dexter and Deb, the best they can end it off on is Dexter unplugging her life support, then taking her body and dumping her in the ocean just like one of his victims.
Right. And like, this is what I'm talking about with the writers having a unique idea, bringing up the idea of something like really challenging for the Dexter character. And every time resorting to, fuck it. What is the best thing for what Dexter wants in that moment? And they do it so many times where, you know, he leaves Saxon like for them to for the police to arrest him and everything, and then he kills Deb. Wouldn't it be something of a change for his character if he continued to let the police get Saxon as like, you know, I would normally do things this way, but because Deb was lost and there's nothing I can do about that, you know, let this guy rot in the system. Again, like anytime he's lost someone close, it's just, oh, I know what the right thing to do is, but I want to do this thing. And for the sake of, you know, tying a nice learning bow around the series, you have him do something that he doesn't always do. Have him finally learn, yeah, maybe my vigilante style isn't exactly the best way to do things. And maybe this begets more of the same.
Now, you may say, well, Deb was a victim of Dexter, and
Yep.
in a way, yes, but as much as Deb has done some shitty things in the last few seasons, we're not just going to pretend like she's on the level of the other sick fucks Dexter has dumped in the ocean before. And we're not going to pretend like after 96 episodes of seeing her internal struggles and progression to where she is today, that she deserved this kind of death. And may I add that
That happens like every season too. Like if you think of the most disrespected character throughout Dexter and like in a season in, season out basis, it is Deb. Deb gets so shit on, whether it's the choices in men that she makes, or you know, the the nature in which she has to deal with crazy shit. Like Dexter is certainly not normal. It's not a redemption story. Yeah, but it is a story with you know an arc, and if the show begins and ends with the same shit, what's the purpose of that character? Why should we follow him if we know what he's going to do every single time? That's not really storytelling. There's no growth. It's just, hey, here's a slice of life on someone that never changes. That isn't really fiction. That's not what's fun about storytelling.
Dexter unplugging her life support is the most anticlimactic thing I've ever seen in this show. Nothing builds up to this, there's no music or anything, it's just treated as your average calm scene where Dexter's casually killing his sister. Oh, and the cherry on top is problem number 5. The green screens in this episode are astonishingly bad.
But it's gray for day there. It's cloudy for cloudy.
First with Deb's death scene, which already looks like complete shit with the terrible lighting and CGI hurricane.
The color correction is atrocious there. You could tell by looking at the ocean too that it's a beautifully blue ocean. Even if they were to uncolor correct this, it would be a vibrant looking ocean.
That just make the vibe of this already terrible episode even worse. And then the green screen of Harrison and Hannah in Argentina is somehow even worse than the other one. The buildings look like they're on a 3D Times Square billboard or something. Speaking of Hannah, problem number 6, the way she deals with Elway.
Hey.
I'm just getting some tea.
I'm not even going to say anything. I'll just let the scene speak for itself.
I'm sorry, do you want some? Here's what's gonna happen. The horse tranquilizer I just gave you is gonna kick in about 8 seconds. You're gonna fall asleep for a couple of hours and wake up in Tallahassee with a slight headache, feeling humiliated and cranky.
You can't keep getting away with it!
Problem number...
That's this is, I think Cody, I don't want to speak on his behalf, but this is something that we've talked about for a while now, that the writers don't think we're grown-ups when they write things. It's just like, here, we're going to explain every single thing. We don't trust you to come to your own conclusions. And it's kind of offensive how often they write material, and it's just like they're trying to hold someone's hand through something. And it's like, dude, I've been here for over 100 episodes. Like, at least understand that I'm growing as a viewer. Maybe you're not growing as a writer, but shit, man, you don't have to spell everything out after 100 episodes. Come on, man.
7. The Dexter and Deb flashback in the hospital. I actually think this is a cool flashback, but they didn't even attempt to make the baby look realistic. You don't even have to look closely to realize they're using a baby doll. It's so bad that it's honestly funny, so I don't really have a problem with it. I just wanted to mention it.
Babies cost
Problem
money.
number 8. Multiple characters that we've been attached to since the very first episode of the show do not even get a single bit of closure. Angel Batista has literally been in every single episode of this show, and all we get from him is a scene of him finding out that Dexter killed himself. David Zayas' voice in this episode is so depressing as well. I can't tell if he has a cold or if he just saw this episode's script and just gave up, but it's very reflective of the quality of this episode. Not to mention Masuka, who has also been in almost every single episode and had that whole subplot with his daughter this season. Yeah, he's in maybe 3 scenes at most. The only supporting character that kind of gets closure is Quinn, but even then it's just by cursing out Saxon, really. He deserved a much better ending, as did the others. And, of course, problem number 9. Dexter drives his boat into a hurricane, fakes his death, then becomes a lumberjack in Oregon. Dexter killing himself would have still sucked, but it would have been much better than whatever the fuck this is. I would like to point out that this aired the same day as Granite State from Breaking Bad, where Walt looks very similar to how Dexter looks here. I'm sure the quality of these 2 episodes are on par, right? Also, I know a lot of you are probably saying Dexter leaving Harrison with Hannah is the worst thing about him faking his death. Now, if that happened in season 7, then yes, I would have agreed with you. It's still beyond stupid now, but Hannah's whole season 8 resurgence has completely disregarded the point of her character and Dexter's opinions of her from season 7. So it's not like this wasn't already something we should have expected. Now, I originally didn't want to talk about what the ending should have been, because the changes that had to be made to the show to have an actual good finale would need to be made long before this episode, and I'll talk about those changes when I think they should have been made later on. But I do think it's worth mentioning, since this is the series finale after all. I've seen a lot of people complain about the fact that Dexter, who claims to not feel emotions, has clearly shown emotions throughout the second half of the show. And if you feel like this, then you clearly don't understand the character of Dexter. Dexter is not a psychopath, and never was. He was manipulated into thinking like that by his terrible father, Harry Morgan, who Dexter still sees visions of up until the second to last episode of the show. Throughout the series, as we see Dexter become more and more human, he slowly lets go of more and more of Harry's code, so much so that he decides to not kill Saxon and leave him for the police. Now, Dexter changing and becoming more human does not mean that he should be let off scot-free and go to Argentina with Hannah. Although that still probably would have been a better ending than him killing Deb.
True.
Dexter killing Deb just ruins the whole point of developing his character over the course of the show. Yes, Dexter deserved consequences for his actions, but that doesn't mean he needed to do something that completely reversed every sort of development he gained throughout the show. And the ending he ended up getting was neither good nor bad. Sure, he doesn't end up in Argentina, but he still walks away scot-free without receiving any consequences. Which he should have, completely. I don't really know how much more I can say that hasn't already been said a billion times. I mean, the show is literally more known for its shitty ending than the actual greatness it once had, so it's not like you guys don't already know how bad this episode is. Let's just hope Resurrection finally gives us the good ending we all truly deserve. Number 95.
I gotta keep track. See, I don't have these in my head. Like if these clips are the actual episode, that's going to help a lot. I'm no fan of this episode. I actually like the lumberjack ending, Eternal Suffering Alone. Yeah, I would have liked a little bit more with that, not just a shot, just to like show how even though he's free, he's not. I get that's what they're trying to do with that shot, but have him not, feeding that addiction that he has. And, he has no one close to him. He's just like divorced from the world while still being here. I get it. I don't know. You give them 10 more minutes to work on that. They might make it worse. So what the hell do I know?
Goodbye, Miami. Now that I think about it, Dexter becoming a lumberjack is only the second most stupid thing to ever happen in this show. And I'd like you to take a guess what number 1 is.
Almost Deb kissing
Before
Dexter.
analyzing this masterpiece, let me explain how we got here. Throughout this episode, Dexter is helping Vogel deal with Saxon while also alerting everyone that he's leaving Miami. If I have to give this episode any credit, it would be that the scene of Angel hugging Dexter for one final time is really good. But Angel ends up telling Deputy Marshal Clayton that Dexter's leaving with Harrison, which gets him justifiably suspicious of Dexter's involvement with Hannah. It might be the first time someone has actually had a brain this whole season.
Also, how many times did Angel retire during the course of this series? It's at least 2, right? Maybe 3?
No pun intended. Clayton goes to Deb's house to ask her about Hannah McKay while she's literally 30 feet away. And we get some incredible dialogue from Deb here.
Are he and Arlene Schramm a couple?
I don't know. I don't keep up with his dating life.
Well, I don't need to tell you what a dangerous person Hannah McKay is. You know more about her than I do.
If Dexter were dating Hannah McKay, I would fucking know about it.
Deb then tells Hannah about this and decides to finally quit her PI job. Then we're brought to what might be a bottom 3 scene in this whole show. Harrison gets on Deb's treadmill, falls down, and slightly cuts his chin. As we know, Hannah McKay is the daughter of Albert Einstein. So what does she do in this situation? She of course goes out in public and brings Dexter Morgan's son to the emergency room while she is a wanted criminal. To make things even better, she signs her name as Deborah Morgan, now involving both Dexter and Deb into this fucking mess of a situation. Maybe...
But Hannah's been so trustworthy all this time. The 2 seasons we've spent with Hannah, she's been so trustworthy.
If Harrison broke his arm or something, then I could kind of understand where her dumbass is coming from, but this guy basically got the equivalent of a paper cut on his chin, and she's like, yeah, it's time for the hospital, buddy. It's so bad that it's almost like Hannah wants to be caught. It makes genuinely no fucking sense. Now, I guess I gotta talk about the Saxon stuff, which also sucks really badly. First of all, that plot twist ending thing from the previous episode was completely pointless, since Vogel literally tells Dexter that she's seeing Oliver within the first 10 minutes of this episode. Then in the final scene of the episode, Saxon slits Vogel's throat, and if it weren't for the series finale having 2 worse deaths, then this would probably be the worst death in the whole show. I mean, Vogel literally just stands there like a mannequin, waiting for her throat to be slit by Saxon. To say that this show fell from grace is an understatement and a half. One more thing to mention is that Quinn...
Dude, if you think about it, all of the characters that they introduce in season 8, none of them have any sort of lasting impact, or you take them away from, most people have, you take them away from the legacy, and it doesn't add anything good. It doesn't fill out the legacy, the saga of Dexter. It's very, considering you're going out and, this is a planned finale, a final season, it's kind of shoddy. It's almost not kind of shoddy. It's remarkable that you can have the first 4 seasons be as solid as they are through 12 episodes. And season 8 is bad through 12 episodes.
And Deb kind of rekindled their relationship, which could have been cool if, Deb didn't die 2 fucking episodes from now. And even though you would assume Quinn getting closer to her would mean he maybe does something in light of her death, but besides defending Dexter's murder of Saxon, he really doesn't. As bad as the finale is, I think this episode is probably the least well-written of the entire show.
Shit, you know what you could have done? See, now we're going back to the finale. When he says it looked like self-defense to me. The real finale, the real ending of that series, that episode could have been that, we get reminded that he knows. And, Quinn could have had this thing like, we're even or something like that, like just some sort of thing, and leave it ambiguous, because if you want to go back to it and do more things in the future, Quinn and Dexter have always had this like interesting will they, won't they kind of relationship where, each other knows something that is not entirely legal about the other. And they kind of flirt with it in season 5. But, some sort of thing at the end there where you just tell the audience, yeah, Quinn's known the whole time. And I don't know, it just leaves you to think, what, does he just let Dexter keep going or what? Well, this is one of the thousands of better ways they could have closed the series out, or this episode, or whatever.
I mean, at least the finale had some cool symbolism, I guess. Number 94. Make your own kind of music.
Yeah.
This is basically where season 8 goes to shit. Not that it was anything special to begin with, but at least the first half was decent enough. By the third act, the writers completely and utterly gave up. Positives. Make Your Own Kind of Music is a good song. Negatives. Let's start with Oliver Saxon. Quite possibly the lamest villain I've ever seen in a TV show. First of all, if you're a character completely based off of an already terrible character, chances are you're not going to be a good character. Second of all, this guy literally just comes out of nowhere, kills Deb, then gets stabbed with a pen and dies. I'm sorry, but if you're going to be the final villain of the show and kill one of its most beloved characters, then you'd think there would be some great motive or at least character development behind it.
Right.
But no. Oliver Saxon is mad because his mom put him in some kind of facility. So now he's taking revenge on Dexter and his friends. Also, his actor is terrible and looks like Ryan Gosling. Now on to Hannah, who single-handedly ruins this season. Not that it wasn't easily the worst without her, but with her, it just sucks. Hannah staying at Deb's house might be a top 3 most stupid plot point in this whole show. Did the writers genuinely just forget how these characters acted? Deb would never let Hannah live in her house. And what's even worse is when she literally eats food made by Hannah. Even if Deb wants to glaze Dexter till she dies, she's not stupid. Literally, the whole reason Hannah got arrested last season was because she drugged Deb. And now Deb is voluntarily eating food made by her, and letting her live in her house. Also completely ignoring the fact that she's been tracking down Hannah for multiple episodes. What's even worse is when Dexter is just like, yeah, we're gonna move to Argentina now. Again, Dexter might be a simp, but he's not stupid. This isn't even a human reaction to love, because most humans are usually rational with their decisions. Also, that scene with the deputy marshal talking to Dexter in Arlene's house makes me want to load a barrel and a gun, seeing what the show's come to. Some other great components of this episode include, but are not limited to, Quinn kissing Deb, Oliver Saxon secretly working with Vogel, and one of my favorites, Dexter struggling with the same thing he struggled with 4 seasons ago. First, this season completely copies the villain format of season 1, then copies Dexter's problem from season 4. Vogel tells Dexter that he can't handle 2 lives at once, and Dexter says, "Of course I can," showing he learned absolutely nothing from Rita's death. And what do you know? Deb ends up dead by the end of this season. Just straight mid all around. I genuinely can't believe the show has come to this. Number 93. Are we there yet? This episode is honestly entertaining in how just stupid it is. This episode almost has an 8 on IMDb, and are you guys like okay? And
You know what? Let me touch on that for a bit. Someone posted something. I don't know if it was on Cody's Twitter or you posted it to me or what. But there's like the graph of all of the scores on IMDb, and like everything is green, which I guess is like 8.0 or higher, with the exception of season 8. You guys are you're looking at rose-tinted glasses through a lot of Dexter. There are moments in seasons 1 through 8 that are not, 10 out of 10 quality. But Dexter being low at a 7.9 is, you're not being honest about things. Like you're not thinking critically. If you're giving season 8 shit a 7.9 out of 10, like it's bad. Like if episode 8 of season 8 is a 7.9, and something in season 4 is like an 8.5. I want you to explain to me how they're that close, because that's what it's essentially what it comes down to. Although, to be fair, I don't give 10 out of 10 very often. So, 9 or stronger is something that, like, it needs to be just incredible, revolutionary. So I think we get a little liberal with handing out 10 stars.
The head. Is this episode entertaining? Yes, at certain points. But to give this episode a good score is ignoring everything wrong with what's happening story-wise. First, I'd like to point out that this is the 5th to last episode in the entire series.
Oh, that's it.
Fucking episodes from now. And even though you would assume Quinn getting closer to her would,
I fucked up.
like, okay in the head. Is this episode entertaining? Yes, at certain points. But to give this episode a good score is ignoring everything wrong with what's happening story-wise. First, I'd like to point out that this is the 5th to last episode in the entire...
Yeah, this is exactly what I'm talking about, actually. I'm sorry, if you think most of season 8 is like 7, 6, 8 at its high moments, but the series finale is a 4.8, why is there that much a drop off? Because I'll be honest with you, it's if episode 12 on season 8 is a 4.8, I got news for you. Most of that season is probably 5s, no better than a 6. So, like, there's that. Like, I get it for the sake of showing a chart like this. It just further explains how not into the finale Dexter fans are. But having said that, you're sending the wrong signals to the people who made this show. Like, oh yeah, it was great until the very, very end, which it wasn't. Like, you need to be a little bit more honest about how you experience things. Because like at 8.6 for 8 seasons, if you're not averaging things out, that's really, really strong. Yeah, I don't agree with this, like, at all. Can I share something with the group? I've never seen Dexter. Well, there's plenty of time to start.
Your series. You would think by this point in the show that there would be an all-out manhunt on Dexter, and he would be running from the police or something along the lines of that. But no. In this episode, we see Dexter go on a road trip to the Keys with Hannah McKay so he can kill Zach. Then once Dexter realizes Zach is innocent...
Hey, who does he look like? If you haven't seen New Blood, you probably won't get this question. But, man, casting... They know what their looks are.
And after Deb catches all 3 of them in the hotel room, they, for some reason, go to Vogel's house for dinner. Then Hannah plans to leave the next day, but of course, how could the writers possibly let go of such a fucking incredible character? So Dexter proceeds to have sex with her. Then when she's literally about to board the plane, he tells her to stay, and she's just like, okay. Now, the positives. Zach. The first time I watched this show, I hated Zach with a passion, and now he's literally the only thing I like about Season 8, post-Episode 4. His actor plays a stupid teenager trying to learn Dexter's ways so well, and he's genuinely entertaining to watch, even when everything around him has gone to shit. This episode would genuinely be closer to a 4 had Zach's humor not been a part of this. Now, the negatives. While Dexter and Hannah are driving to the Keys, Dexter explains to her how Zach has murdered innocent people and needs to be killed. And that got me to realize how awfully written this season really is. Not that it wasn't already glaringly obvious, but think about it. For the last few seasons, Dexter's slowly been letting go of Harry's code and only killing when he feels it's necessary. Which made sense, especially when he had Hannah arrested. Dexter in Season 1 would have killed Hannah as soon as he found out she was guilty, but Dexter in Season 7 was able to control his urges and give Hannah to the police. Now in Season 8, we have multiple things that are just wrong. A, Dexter's suddenly following the code again, and B, Hannah is back. As stupid as Dexter following the code again is, if you're gonna do that, then maybe he should, I don't know, dispose of the convicted murderer sitting right next to him.
Well, the other thing, the wrinkle on the code was that they retconned Harry, and what's her face, Vogel was supposed to, like, add this new wrinkle on the code that secretly she was the one that helped all along. Like I said earlier, they had really good ideas from time to time, but what they did with those ideas was so fumbled so many times.
The fact that he's explaining to Hannah why Zach needs to be killed while Hannah has literally killed more innocent people than Zach is just insane. The whole rest of this episode has this stupid dynamic between
Yeah, but Hannah looks fantastic naked, so
Dexter, Zach, and Hannah. Hannah has absolutely no reason to be there, but it helps Deb get to them, which is just the stupidest fucking scene in the world. The finale is in 4 episodes, and I'm watching Deb, Dexter, Hannah, and Zach all questionably look at each other like the Spider-Man meme, in a hotel room covered in plastic. Then there's the Vogel scene, and it is beyond fucking stupid. I don't even have to say anything, since it's basically the same thing as the last scene I mentioned, but instead of featuring one of the show's best characters, it has one of the worst. It's also completely pointless. Like, completely. Then Zach gets his fucking brain cut in half, which is kind of funny, I can't lie. Oh yeah, Dexter and Hannah also have sex, and Hannah decides to stay in Miami because Dexter says a single sentence to her.
Hannah! Don't go. Stay with me.
that's shitty cinematography too.
At this point, it's so obvious that the writers just gave the hell up, so I'm gonna do the same thing.
Why do the swirling with the camera? They're not both feeling the same thing.
Number 92. Dress code.
Have we
I
not
really
had-
wish I could leave the review with this, but sadly I think I actually have to give my opinion, so bear with me. So let's bring this back to season 7. Hannah was introduced as a character to show that Dexter has started to have normal urges like lust and love. Another part of this more human side of Dexter is him starting to become more selfless, which was shown by him having Hannah arrested at the end of the season. Even though she was the love of his life, he knew that Deb's life was at risk if she continued to be a free woman, so Dex did what he thought was right and called the police on her. Now, Hannah has escaped from jail and proceeded to not only drug Deb for the 2nd time, but drug Dexter as well and leave him on the side of the road. Now, what does Dexter decide to do in the wake of this? Find out what Hannah's been up to, then assist Hannah after she murders her husband. Same writers as season 7, by the way, just so you guys are aware. The reason this is even above a 6 is because at least the Zach stuff is mildly entertaining. Everything else is either completely boring and useless, or completely boring and terribly written. Moral of the story, the shit is boring. Number 91. Scar tissue.
Come on, I just ran 4 miles with 1 beer.
Rappers screaming all in our ears like we're deaf. Tempt me, do a number on the label.
We haven't had an episode that isn't in season 8 yet. I don't know if I would agree with that. The bottom 6 episodes are all season 8. This is where, like, you know, it's 100 hours of content to sit through. Like, I'm sure there's, well, maybe I'm not sure. Maybe that graph is exactly right, and I'm the one who's misremembering.
Incredibly average episode. The only thing I really enjoy is Deb's rehabilitation, but they somehow ruined that by the end as well. Throughout the episode, Vogel is trying to help Deb recover from the terrible place she was in. Vogel's way of doing this is trying to justify how her code for Dexter was right. Vogel is such a piece of shit and an awful character, and every season 8 episode she's in is dragged down because of her, but I still really enjoyed Deb here. By the end of the episode, after realizing that Harry killed himself because of Dexter, she decides to kill herself and Dexter by driving her car into a lake. But once a good Samaritan saves her, she decides to save Dexter. Her doing that murder-suicide was already pretty stupid, but her saving Dexter is beyond that. I was trying not to laugh, honestly.
See, that could have been I realize this probably isn't a very popular take, but you could, if you really wanted to end the season on a note that's powerful, instead of teasing that, you have Deb do that assisted unaliving while unaliving themselves. Wait, he said it. Murder-suicide. You could have had that happen, like, to close everything out. Like, someone finally, yet another innocent person was lost due to Dexter's behavior or his style or the code or whatever. And Deb decides, you know what, I've been an accessory to this, and just takes them all out. And, like, that's the end of the show. Like, It's not the greatest thing in the world, but it would feel like it has some sort of purpose. I don't know.
Besides Deb, the Dexter subplot is pretty boring as always, with Yates being his new suspect for the brain surgeon. Basically nothing happens with this besides Dexter finding out that Vogel thinks he's delusional about wanting Deb in his life, so he decides to cut Vogel off. If only this actually lasted. What a missed opportunity. But man, it's not the first time the season has had a missed opportunity. Quinn passes the sergeant exam, but is still fucked up over Deb and gets into a bar fight when he overhears someone shit-talking her. I'm sorry, but how fucking stupid you gotta be to A, get in a bar fight at your lieutenant's restaurant, B, do it right before you're about to become sergeant, and C, get into the fight because someone shit-talked your ex when your current girlfriend is right next to you. As impulsive as Quinn is, I don't even think this is in character for him, and it's just sloppy writing so the runtime is longer. Then
to defend the writing, isn't Deb's character like in absolute shambles at that moment? What are we, episode 4? Has Deb come around yet? I think the fact that Deb's in shambles would be one of the reasons why Quinn would be, hurt, bothered by that. I don't disagree with what he's saying here, but I'm a little more lenient as to why he would get no fight if Deb's at a low and people are making fun of her. But I agree for the most part.
we have the introduction of the most laughably stupid subplot in this whole show. Masuka's daughter. I mean, seriously, this is the best Masuka can get? As bad as the intern subplots were in seasons 6 and 7, at least Lewis somewhat mattered to the overall plot in helping Isaac find who Dexter is. This is genuinely just pointless, and there's not a single scene where I care about it at all. Justice for Masuka, he deserved way better subplots.
Yeah, and this is something that I was talking about in discussions of Resurrection. Every week, if you're watching this stuff live, people forget that there's, I won't say filler because I don't really mean filler because, it needs to move the story ahead in some way. But there's fluff. There's stuff that really isn't integral to the main, the meat of the story. And it's happened quite a bit. It's just interesting how while it's happening and you're in the moment and you don't see where these stories go, people get really defensive of things. Like Blessing in Resurrection, man, the amount of pushback that I received for kind of being over his character by the halfway point. And it ended up being pointless anyway. Well, not pointless, but he didn't really serve much purpose for the last couple of episodes.
Number 90.
Oh.
Monkey in a Box. This episode is strangely the best out of the second half of season 8, which is weird since it's in between the 2 worst episodes of the entire show. Not that the episode is good, because it's still obviously got its issues, but I do like the sentiments of a lot of things here. First of all, as stupid as Dexter leaving Miami for Argentina is, seeing everyone at the station and in the city give him his farewells makes me really sad.
I legit think he's got the right footage for the right episode while he's talking about these. Like that is, I'm sorry, editor me is just thoroughly impressed.
Especially Deb, Angel, and Jamie. Deb having her final dinner with Dexter in his apartment is super sad to see, after they've been doing this since the very first seasons, and them working together to get Oliver is great as well. Honestly, the main complaint I have with this episode in general is Saxon shooting Deb, for multiple reasons. Number 1, the way he shoots her is just stupid. I mean, how realistic is it that the guy who's wanted for murder all around town isn't recognized by a fucking deputy marshal? And even if he doesn't know who Saxon is, why would he just voluntarily let this guy go without knowing anything? I swear, how do people with high power in this show get these positions? Because it sure as hell isn't intelligence. And number 2, the fact that Deb dies to Saxon is just so fucking lame. I mean, this guy's been in the show for like 3 episodes and has nothing to do with Deb. And Deb has literally been shot before by more threatening characters, so why is she dying to such a loser?
That's a joke that I made in one of my videos, that like she gets shot at the exact location on the opposite side of her hip, and that was okay. Wait, that was season 4 when that happened. And I think I put I superimposed words. I think I put on the one side from season 4, ouchie, and on this side, muerte, which means die in Espanol.
Not like Saxon is scary at all either. He just suddenly got a hold of a gun and shot Deb. Nothing built up to it at all. Back to the things I do like. After a whole season of Dexter's character being brought back to how he was in the earlier seasons before learning anything, he realizes that he no longer has the urge to kill, so he leaves Saxon for the police. Now, Dexter shouldn't have walked away scot-free from this, but I think that Saxon getting arrested and Dexter receiving punishment some other way would have been a much more satisfying ending. Then Dexter walks outside and has a final hug with Deb, which is super sad, accompanied by Harry, who makes his final appearance by telling Dexter,
I never thought this day would come.
The weird thing is, technically, Harry is just visions from within Dexter's head. Like this little plot device thing that they use to give us the information that Dex would be receiving from a dead character. We forget that so many times where, yeah, they're just, I don't know, some sort of psychosis that Dexter's going through, but...
You don't need me anymore.
which is also super sad. But we're not going to sit here and pretend like the best part of this episode wasn't getting multiple cameos by the GOAT Sil. I love when they bring characters from old seasons back. It's nice to remember that not every single person dies when they don't reappear. Could have been a solid episode, but it had some minor writing issues that held it back, and it was kind of in the middle of a shitstorm of terrible writing and plot points, so it really did the best it could with these circumstances. Number 89. A Beautiful Day. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Dexter season premieres completely disregarding a whole storyline from the previous season because the writers didn't know how to stretch the filler any longer than it already had been. I am your host, DJ, and today we are going to be interviewing 4 season premieres of Dexter to see which one of them really had the shittiest writing. Each one of these seasons completely disregarded a whole plot point from the previous season, but only one can win today. After seeing what all 4 season premieres are about, our judge, Dexter Morgan himself, will be deciding which one is the worst. First up, 801, A Beautiful Day.
Maria LaGuardia. Maria LaGuardia? Yes, the woman who has played a major role in Miami Metro for all 7 seasons. The woman who has had intimate relationships with Miguel Prado, James Stokes, Andrew Batista. The woman who shut down multiple investigations into Dexter Morgan. Now,
Why did the audio quality change? It sounds more tinny all of a sudden.
after she suspects, catches, and arrests Dexter for being the Bay Harbor Butcher, then is mysteriously shot while she is supposed to be at a New Year's party where both Dexter and Deborah are also absent. Did you really think the writers were gonna make this matter? Of course not! In my episode, there's a 5-month time skip, so the writers don't have to make Dexter or Deborah face any consequences for murdering an innocent person. And absolutely nobody is suspicious because, well, yeah. Oh, and you remember Angel's retirement plan from last season? No, you fucking don't. Wait, you do? Well, you don't anymore. He's now the lieutenant of homicide. Because how the fuck could we possibly let Angel have an interesting subplot where we become suspicious of Dexter and or Deborah? God, this episode is so fucking ass. Please pick me to win it all, Dexter.
And that's going to be it for this segment. Please stay tuned to see the other 3 contestants' reasonings, and stay tuned till the very end to see who will win. Dexter season premieres completely disregarding a whole storyline from the previous season because the writers didn't know how to stretch the filler any longer than it already had been. One of the most overrated episodes in this entire series. There is absolutely no universe where this is better than the first 7 episodes of season 3. I genuinely don't understand this. As a standalone episode, it is probably the best season 8 has to offer, with Dexter tracking down Deb and trying to bring her back to her normal life. But there's just so many fucking problems with how this episode deals with the season 7 aftermath. After an ending like Maria being shot by Deb in a shipping container with Dexter watching while all 3 of them are supposed to be at a New Year's party a day after Maria arrested Dexter for being the Bay Harbor Butcher, you'd think there would be some real instant repercussions for the both of them, right? Of course not. We instead have a 5-month time skip where Dexter's happily living his life as he always was, with absolutely nobody questioning him. Now, Deb has quit the PD, so you could consider this the consequences of Maria's death, but the only thing this should be doing is causing more questions to arise. First of all, Deb and Maria were never close at all. They had a complicated relationship, but for the most part, Deb pretty much hated Maria for the whole show. And everyone knew this.
Yeah, but there's a bench. They have a LaGuardia bench. And it's funny that I think they even wrote it in that episode where, like, Masuko was like, I don't understand, like, why a bench? It's like they know how dog shit it is, and they're, like, kind of being meta about it. I
So why the fuck would she just quit her job and ghost everyone once this happens? Remember in season 2 when it was revealed that Deb's partner Dokes was not only the fucking Bay Harbor Butcher, but also dead? Deb had a much better relationship with Dokes than Maria, and also was really new to homicide at that point. But she didn't quit then. Oh, and you know, she was coincidentally absent from Angel's party at the same time that Maria died. Maybe that could possibly have some correlation, but I guess everyone in the show just forgot how to be fucking detectives. And even if you want to make the argument that everyone in the department is biased because they were close to Maria, what about Quinn? First of all, he never seemed to have...
Plus, LaGuerta was shot with Deb's gun. Don't those bullets have like a... I don't know. I don't know.
the best relationship with Maria. And we've seen Quinn be logical at crime scenes relating to his coworkers before, so it wouldn't be out of the ordinary for him. And speaking of that, did we just forget that Quinn spent a whole season investigating Dexter? And now suddenly a day after Maria arrests Dexter for being the Bay Harbor Butcher, she's shot dead in a shipping container, coincidentally at the same time that Dexter is absent from Angel's party. Out of all the things to happen in the show that should have gotten people suspicious about Dexter, this is the most obvious one, and somehow nothing comes out of it. And this is the final season of the fucking show. How awesome would a manhunt for Dexter and Deb have been for 12 whole episodes? Well, besides these terrible writing issues, this episode's pretty solid. I guess if you can't have this season be a manhunt, then the next best thing would be Deb dealing with the murder of Maria. And even though it only lasts for a few episodes, it's still pretty solid. Deb hasn't talked to Dexter in weeks and now works for some guy named Elway, who owns some kind of private investigative business. Deb hasn't been seen in weeks and she's out trying to get a piece of jewelry from a criminal, but she gets attached to him and decides to do cocaine and have sex for 2 weeks, while very slowly progressing on her case. On first viewing, I thought Deb doing cocaine was really out of character, but after watching Original Sin and honestly just thinking about it more, it makes a lot of sense that she would act out like this after killing.
I didn't like Jennifer Carpenter's work as someone high on drugs. A lot of abnormal sounds and shit being made there. Especially considering she was like sort of undercover during that moment. A lot of overacting in those scenes. A lot of a very abnormal couple of scenes there.
LaGuerta. Any sense of morals that she had were tossed out of the window when she shot Maria. So she basically just gives up and does whatever she wants to. Dexter tries to confront her and she just tells him to leave her the fuck alone. Dexter of course doesn't do that and just kills the guy Deb was with, which makes her really sad, and she calls the police to fix the mess. All of this is entertaining enough and I would consider this a good episode overall, but we are introduced to Dr. Vogel, who is the stupidest character in the whole show. Her character's secret isn't fully revealed in this episode, but in all of her scenes she just feels like a knockoff Lundy. And that scene at the very end where she gives Dexter drawings from his past is so fucking stupid. I can understand making someone look like a villain when they're really not, but why the fuck wouldn't Vogel just give Dexter the drawings instead of trying to scare him like a cartoon villain? This whole season is beyond stupid, but at least this had a chance of being a good episode. Number 88.
Oh,
Smokey and the Bandit.
A different
This
season.
episode is pretty much complete filler besides like 2 scenes, but hey, at least it's good filler. Absolutely nothing that Dexter does in this episode has anything to do with the Doomsday Killer.
Oh,
He
wait
hunts
a
after
minute.
this guy.
No. I wish that they expanded on this. I really wish that the Tooth Fairy guy, they could have covered a bit more with him, because it was a guy Dexter looked up to or something, and he was just kind of like let down at how miserable the guy had become. You brought up these moments that could have really, I don't know, been explored upon further. The fact that, you know, serial killers that don't get caught eventually get old, and whatever fame or whatever I don't know, glory you're looking for in, you know, idolizing these people, that shit fades away too. There is a couple of things that they could have really, I don't know, gone harder with and really didn't. I guess I'm giving them more credit for the idea than the execution. So maybe I'm
named the Tooth Fairy, who he's wanted to kill since he was a kid. Dexter hunting down serial killers will always be fun to watch, but this guy is very annoying, and that guy can barely fucking walk, so it's not like he seems like a threat either. The thing I like most about this plotline is the way Dexter kills the guy. He tells Dexter that his son has no idea about him, and he's excited for him to find out. So Dexter decides to suffocate the Tooth Fairy instead of stabbing him and throwing him in the ocean, so his son assumes he dies of a heart attack, and him nor the public ever find out that he was really the Tooth Fairy. Deb is dealing with being a lieutenant and hires Mike Anderson as a replacement for detective. Mike Anderson just might be the greatest character in this entire show. Everything about his character is just flawless. The writing, backstory, acting, just pure perfection all around. On a serious note, how I feel about Mike Anderson is how a lot of people feel about Quinn. Dokes was such an incredible character, and then he gets replaced by an inferior one with Quinn. But Mike Anderson being inferior to Deb is an understatement. I think the only character trait that Mike Anderson shows in his whole time as a character is sexism. And it's literally only in the very first scene where Deb interacts with him, because he works fine with her for the rest of the season. The most significant thing about his character is that he dies, which is what leads to the main season 7 plot. That's literally it. And that's pretty much the only reason this character even exists. Deb is also dealing with Quinn, who has already turned to like 3 other women in good old Quinn fashion. This is easily Quinn's worst season. Granted,
To be fair, Deb constantly turns to other men too, so it seems of their characteristics.
we of course are pretending like season 8 doesn't exist, but even season 8 probably had a better Quinn subplot than this. I understand him acting out after breaking up with Deb, but it is literally the only thing he does all season. Maria is also becoming increasingly annoying with each season 6 episode, which pisses off all 6 of us at Maria Defenders HQ. Maria still wants to act as lieutenant and tries helping Deb with her work, but Angel tells Deb to ignore her. Even though Maria and Angel's breakup was rushed, I am glad it's over because Angel can finally be a likable character again. Not that he was necessarily unlikable in seasons 4 and 5, but there was nothing he did to make him likable either. Then there's Travis, and his plotline is very strange in this episode. He kidnaps this guy, and when he tries to escape, a horse randomly jumps at him out of nowhere. Then at the end of the episode, Travis lets the horse loose in the middle of the street with body parts attached to it. I do really like Travis, but this is stupid. Sorry. If we're being honest, the reason why this is so low is because it barely features Brother Sam. Before the Doomsday killings get good, he's really the saving grace of season 6, and he has one scene in this whole episode. Number 87. Every Silver Lining.
Back to 8.
An improvement over episode 1, but it's still incredibly average for Dexter standards. This episode's purpose is to introduce us to Dr. Vogel, and she's easily one of the worst characters in this entire show, and the definition of lazy writing. After 7 seasons of being told that Harry was the one to shape Dexter into who he is today, the writers just said, nope, it was actually Evelyn Vogel. This is so obviously just lazy writing. It's like if J.K. Rowling made an 8th Harry Potter book and was like, hey, actually, Voldemort didn't kill Harry's parents, it was Voldemort's friend. So now you gotta go find and kill Voldemort's friend. And you wanna know what the purpose of Vogel creating the code is? Nothing. The only reason they even added this was so she seemed like an important character that we should care about. And so it gives Dexter even the slightest bit of a motive to go after the brain surgeon. And the worst part is that Vogel's character is so fucking boring. There's not a single scene she's in where I don't want to just go to sleep instead of watching the show. And you know, maybe she could be interesting if she was a good psychologist or something, but she's actually an awful one. Towards the middle of the episode, Dexter tells her that he really needed someone to talk to after Harry died, and she was surprised by this because psychopaths don't usually act like this. Yeah, maybe that's because Dexter isn't a psychopath. She's sadly a large focus of early season 8, which is why none of these episodes are highly rated at all. But besides her, there is some quality to be found, specifically with the Deb plotline. I don't mean the Elway stuff, because I care about Elway as much as you care about what I ate for lunch yesterday. But the fact that Deb is falling more into darkness, similar to Dexter. Again, if the writers couldn't have made Dexter and Deb get caught, then this was really the next best option for Deb's character. And I think they handled it pretty well here, with Deb shooting El Sapo and trying to keep it a secret from everyone. This is further symbolized during the scene with Deb and El Sapo. After their fight, El Sapo gets in his car, and you see blood coming from his cheek that resembles what Dexter does to his victims every time they're on his table. And it's pretty scary to think about where Deb could possibly be going. Nothing more to say here. Not the most interesting episode, but still solid enough.
Solid? We're at what, 87 out of 96? It's easy for me to judge. But I guess also considering they're not counting any of the spin-offs, I'm sure I can throw a couple of New Blood, a couple of Original Sin episodes in there.
For 86, A Little Reflection. This episode mainly introduces us to Zach Hamilton, while slightly introducing us to Oliver Saxon, two of fiction's greatest works of art. First, we have Oliver Saxon. He's in a single scene, so there's not much to say, but he's by far the worst character in the show. Then there's Zach Hamilton, who is pretty boring if I have to say so myself. The idea of Dexter having a student is pretty cool, but it's done much better in New Blood. I know I said I wouldn't spoil New Blood, so I'll pretty much keep it at that, but I've seen a lot of people say that they prefer Zach to Dexter's student in New Blood, and I don't understand that in the slightest. Zach gets better later on in the season, but for now he's just kind of boring. Dexter's hunt for Zach is more interesting than Zach himself. I like how Dexter is working with Quinn a bit to solve this case, since they've had beef basically since season 4, so I'm glad they patched things up a bit. Quinn's other scenes in this episode are not interesting at all though. All that happens is that Angel doesn't promote him to sergeant, then Jamie gets mad. I know a lot of subplots are useless in this show, but at least in seasons 4, 5, and 7, Quinn's subplots actually did something in the end. Here we're for some reason supposed to care about who makes sergeant when literally none of the characters involved get any closure by the time the series finale comes around. I feel the exact same way about the Elway stuff. His character is fine, it's not like I hate the scenes with him, but they would be a lot fucking better if something actually ended up happening between Deb and Elway. Yes, Elway does kind of play a role in the finale, but that has nothing to do with him building a relationship with Deb. I also have to mention the ending of this episode, which is one of the worst endings to any Dexter episode. Dexter and Deb are casually just chilling in her living room, then they suddenly both pass out, and Hannah is revealed to be back. I mean, seriously? It's stupid enough that Hannah's still even in this show, but they couldn't have made her reveal more stupid.
She just hung out on the porch.
Than this. Hannah single-handedly brings this season from alright to straight mid, so I'm honestly kind of grateful for the first half of this season, even with Vogel being there. This episode would probably be below a 7 for me, but Vogel's absence is really nice. She gets super annoying after all the episodes she was in, and getting to see Dexter focus on the hunt for Zach in exchange is much better. An alright episode. Number 85. What's Eating Dexter Morgan? This episode had the opportunity to be absolutely incredible, and they completely fucked it up. Since apparently the detectives in this show stopped being detectives in episode 1, you would think that Deb literally admitting to Joey Quinn that she fucking killed LaGuardia was enough to, you know, maybe raise just the tiniest bit of suspicion.
Plus, they already did that. Like, the other thing about Dexter is they have really good ideas, and then they, like, have similar ideas that are parallel or rhyme them. Like the fact that Dexter in the first episode of season 5 was like, it was my fault or something. And they had this, the rest of the episode, you know, as a matter of fact, it was Quinn himself who was suspicious and looked into it. The fact that they've done it before is again, kind of insulting for an audience that's been with you the whole ride. Like, yeah, we know you've done this before, and how are you doing the same exact thing that you did last time?
Why Deb and Dexter were absent at Angel's party as Maria was murdered, but, you know, I guess that's too much work for the writers. And as soon as Deb is about to spill everything about Maria's death, she coincidentally passes out with Dexter in the room and never speaks of such a thing again. I mean, come on. Quinn spent a whole goddamn season investigating Dexter, and he doesn't think anything of this? Beyond stupid writing. Now, the reason this is still above a 7 is because, as stupid as this is, the intensity of Deb going into the station to confess everything is still really good, and Jennifer Carpenter is amazing as always. Everything else relating to Deb throughout this episode is pretty good as well, where she's basically just drunk the whole time, and her guilt for Maria's death just gets worse and worse. Everything else in this episode, I couldn't care less about. Quinn and Jamie are boring, Elway's boring, Vogel is... oh, shit. Sorry. Lame-ass writing, but pretty decent besides that. Number 84. This Little Piggy. Definitely one of the more entertaining Season 8 episodes, but there's still some awful writing issues. The last episode kind of ended with Deb trying to murder both herself and Dexter, and by the end of this episode, they're completely happy with each other and they work together to save Dr. Vogel. Now, you would think that something actually happens that improves their relationship, right? Well, no, not really. They're kind of just mad at each other, then Vogel gets kidnapped and they're like, okay, I guess we're friends again. Also, are we just gonna pretend like nobody saw them drive a car into the lake and almost fucking drown? The first scene of this episode has them teleport to Vogel's house. Wouldn't this be like a city-known story put on the news? I guess people attempting suicide by driving cars into lakes is a common occurrence in Miami. Besides all of this, it is a Season 8 episode, but I guess a solid one. Vogel gets kidnapped, so Dexter and Deb have to save her, which is decently entertaining. And Dexter kills Yates with a curtain hanger, which is pretty cool. And even though I don't care about the Masuka's daughter subplot at all, him going to Deb's agency to investigate his daughter is a good scene. I like seeing Deb and Masuka be friends here. Number 83. The Angel of Death. I kind of feel the same way on this episode as I did on 603, but I definitely prefer this one because the subplots are less annoying. Again though, there's a lot of scenes in this episode that just don't feel necessary. Like Deb and Jamie fighting in the apartment. I think the only good thing to come out of their feud is in Season 8 when Jamie just flips her off, but I don't know why the writers expect me to care here. Speaking of Deb, she buys a house in this episode, which is the one she keeps for the rest of the show. This house mostly just gives me PTSD from every terribly written season 8 scene that occurred here, but it's still a cool house, so I digress. Dexter finally goes after Travis after 4 episodes, but the writing really isn't great here. Dexter needs to find proof that Travis is guilty of the Doomsday killings, and he does this by kidnapping Travis and interrogating him. Since when did Dexter get this sloppy at finding evidence? And when Travis tells him that Geller's behind everything, Dexter just believes him and lets him go. Seriously, when did Dexter just become a dumbass and trust the people he's about to kill? Especially since he hasn't even seen Geller at all. It's just very strange writing. Besides that, he gets closer to Brother Sam, which is nice, who is sadly shot in the final scene of this episode. I guess I'm finally gonna have to mention the season 6 Masuka subplot, which is somehow not his worst one. I'm not gonna bother mentioning his previous intern, because genuinely, who cares about her? But I guess Lewis is more important to the plot, so I'll mention his existence really quickly. In this episode, he's presented as this nerdy intern, and he continues to be that until he's shot dead by Ukrainian mobsters, but he becomes much more annoying later on. Angel and Quinn have a subplot too, where Quinn hooks up with this teacher who knew Geller, and Angel finds Geller's weird drawings in her house, which helps with the case. Pretty average episode. Number 82. First Blood.
Ooh,
this is the first episode of Dexter to receive under an 8 on IMDb, and I can definitely understand that. Every time when it's...
No. You guys you need to be fair or I don't know, honest about some of these scores on IMDb. I would take all of the 1s and 10s and eliminate them and then judge from there. Because people get a little too, I don't know. Well, I already said this earlier.
Seems like something's gonna happen in this episode. It doesn't happen. Dexter kills one of Lumen's abusers. Nah, that's the wrong guy. Lumen shoots one of her abusers. Nah, that's the wrong guy. Lumen leaves town and lets Dexter deal with her abusers. Nah, she decides to stay. Angel catches Maria cheating on him. Nah, she was doing a sting operation. Deb gets a lead from the tattoo shop. Nah. There's really nothing to add with this one. She literally just gets nothing. It's complete filler. Now, I know expecting things to happen makes a show pretty boring, but in this case, most of these would have been much more interesting if they actually happened. The season 5 plot is good enough to make this still a solid episode, but I can't explain how uneventful this episode really is. I can summarize the whole episode in 3 sentences. 1. Dexter tries to kill Lumen's abuser, but he got the wrong guy. 2. Lumen almost leaves Miami, but decides to stay. 3. Quinn hires an old friend to investigate Dexter. That's it. And yeah, I guess that Quinn subplot is somewhat interesting, but nobody actually likes Liddy at all. He just adds to the amount of lame characters introduced in this season.
He was all right. Is Dexter really a psychopath? The discussion should, and it should be had, whether or not it's psychopath or sociopath. He's definitely one of them. You know, committing serial murders isn't what people would call normal. So there's some element of psychopathy there, whether or not it's legitimate sociopath. Oh, whoops, not. All right, well.
Definitely the least eventful episode of season 5, but it's still solid enough. Number 81. Chemistry. I really wish that the second half of this season stayed on the same level as the first, because it legitimately had the chance of being the best season. After episode 5, though, the season decides to focus more on Hannah for a bit, which I definitely don't hate, but I gotta be honest about her. I really like the point of Hannah's character and what she brings to the character of Dexter, but Hannah herself is really boring. Throughout the show, Dexter has fought his traumatized brother, the sergeant of Miami Metro PD, an ADA who learns who he really is, the most notorious serial killer in the history of the world, 5 murderous sexual abusers, and a schizophrenic diehard Christian. And he is currently fighting a cartoonist Ukrainian mob boss who wants revenge on him for killing his partner. Now tell me, why are we supposed to care about Hannah McKay? Yes, she is a murderer, but compared to literally every other villain in this show, she is not interesting whatsoever.
Dude,
she isn't even the most interesting killer that Dexter has been in a relationship with. And in a season where Dexter has been caught by Deb, is being investigated by Maria, and is being hunted down by a Ukrainian mob boss.
Yeah, but this one comes in blonde.
We are supposed to care about Hannah McKay more than those things. It just doesn't make sense to me, but it is what it is. This episode focuses on Sal Price's demise. He basically keeps nagging Hannah for an interview, so he sets up an interview with her, while also setting up an interview with Dexter later on. And
I'm advising you watch my seasons ranked, because I was going to bring up something else that's a parallel, but there's the tease I know I said it because it's recorded and I've looked through it. There's something about Hannah and Lila, and I discuss it on my ranking video.
Promises to keep their relationship a secret. Dexter constantly tells Hannah that he'll deal with Bryce, but she doesn't exactly trust him much since he kind of tried to murder her last episode. So she decides to poison Sal, who ends up dropping dead in Dexter's apartment later on. This fucks up Deb pretty bad, since this is the first love interest she's had in years. And it's gotta be a curse at this point that every relationship she has ends due to the boyfriend dying, Deb being emotionally unstable, or the boyfriend being a serial killer, which is probably what causes reason number 2. Now it's glaringly obvious to everyone that Hannah McKay was the one to kill Price, so that's not where the problem comes from. The problem comes in the very final scene where Deb literally tells Dexter to kill Hannah, while Dexter is laying in bed with her. I've heard people say Deb's character gets butchered after finding out that Dexter is a killer, but this season literally shows us throughout the first half how Deb is able to understand what Dexter does more and more. And even though she never truly accepts it, when Deb is presented with a case like Hannah McKay and literally witnesses a murderer kill her boyfriend but can't do anything about it, she resorts to Dexter's ways. This puts Dexter in a very strange situation since he has to choose between his new love or his sister in Harry's code, which thankfully sets up a much better next few episodes. Besides all of this though, we get probably Hannah's actress's best acting in the whole show. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce her name. She's
Yvonne Strahovski?
mostly not a bad actress, but never even close to the level of Michael C. Hall or Jennifer Carpenter. But the scene of her crying while talking to Sal Price is honestly really good. The Isaac stuff is pretty brief here, with him getting out of jail, but he does have a meeting with Dexter where he acts incredibly British. A weaker episode in this season, but still decent.
He's playing a Ukrainian.
Number 80.
Oh.
Do the Wrong Thing. Definitely one of the weaker season 7 episodes, and I gotta say, it's because Isaac is in jail. Besides George bribing Quinn to erase Isaac's blood evidence, there's really nothing in this episode relating to the Koshkas that's interesting at all. And they somehow have another scene where Isaac and George casually talk about mafia activities on a monitored police phone call. Isaac literally has a cell phone that he snuck in, but I guess this had to wait so the police could hear the conversation. Anyways, the rest of this episode focuses on Dexter's hunt, but eventual lust for Hannah, which is solid, but not the most interesting thing in the world. Hannah is easily the least interesting love interest Dexter has in the entire show, but it's not her specifically that makes this season and dynamic interesting. Her character's purpose, at least at this point, is to show that Dexter is becoming more and more human as the series progresses. I mean, in the first episode of this show, the guy was basically asexual and only had a girlfriend to look normal. But after being with Lila, then marrying and having a child with Rita, and the slow but continuous development he's had in other matters like Rita's death and his friendship with brother Sam, Dexter slowly but surely has strayed far away from the person he once was. Sure, he's still a serial killer, but this episode shows him picking a more human alternative to deal with his emotions: love and lust. Throughout the episode, and really the whole season so far, while he's been vetting Hannah, it's been very obvious that Dexter had a crush on her, and just didn't want to admit it. Especially when Hannah gets Dexter to ask her out on a date. He uses this as an excuse to get her on his table, but you can tell he seems happy about the idea of it. Then once she actually gets on his table, he gives up and lets Hannah free so they can have fun on the table. I know a lot of people don't like this scene, and I will admit that it does feel a bit abrupt, but again, it just reinforces Dexter's transformation into a normal human being.
Abrupt.
And the reason this isn't higher is because, again, this is really all the episode focuses on, besides introducing us to Sal Price, who was a solid addition to the show. Deb also finds out about Lumen being Dexter's accomplice in killing the barrel killers, and I am glad she calls him out for this, but we're not just going to forget that Deb fucked Quinn on that house's kitchen floor literally the day after Rita was killed. It seems a little hypocritical. Still a solid episode. Number 79. Swim Deep. The first episode of Season 7 where the focus is less on Deb dealing with Dexter being a serial killer, and more on Dexter's relationships with Isaac and Hannah. But that part is obviously still there, just to a lesser extent. I don't really think the Hannah stuff is that good till the second half of the season, so I'll just get her scenes over with first. She starts showing an interest in Dexter when she continues to talk to him specifically, and we get this really awkward conversation, due to both the weird-ass dialogue and Hannah's actress's terrible acting.
Seems so sad that no one was gonna eat it.
Look at us talking blood and gore like we're on a date sharing our first sexual experience.
I don't know if that's on the actor so much. The script, the dialogue, the writing was painful when it was painful. I don't know if you can blame Yvonne for that. You know, she didn't write those words. She's merely performing them while having to do this weird little situation.
What?
This is also the scene where Dexter finds out that Hannah was actually responsible for one of the murders herself, which puts her on Dexter's radar, but not much is done with it for the rest of the episode. The highlight here is very obviously the scenes with Isaac. The episode starts with Dexter realizing that someone is in his apartment, so he lures Isaac to a restaurant where they have a chat on call. Dexter seems to have the upper hand throughout this call till Isaac says he's going to be going.
Yeah, she's great in Chuck. Yeah, she's a good television series actor. I don't think she's been in anything in film that I can remember, but there are like these tiers of actors. Really great movie actors usually can't do television, and vice versa. I think a really great television actor can't make that leap to film, and I think there's something to be said there for this style of actor. I mean, I guess maybe you're not getting like an A+ movie star who's going to do 13 episodes of a series and nail it equally. Bryan Cranston is really great for television, but Bryan Cranston in film, not much going on there, but he's very, very well received for television series. Yvonne Strahovski, she's fine. She was in The Predator. I don't even remember who the hell she was in The Predator. So, because Olivia Munn is the only one I remember. Yeah, so my point exactly. She can't make the jump to films, it seems.
After not just Dexter, but the rest of the police department as well, including Dexter's lieutenant's sister. While he says this, he finally notices Dexter, who is about 50 feet away from him, and all of this just adds to how much of a badass Isaac really is in this season. Later on, Isaac is tailing Dexter, so he leads him to a Colombian bar, where he's shot at since he's drug rivals with them, but he's able to take like 4 guys out by himself. And Dexter's plan doesn't kill Isaac, but it does get him arrested, which is a very interesting plot point. Usually the season's big killer isn't arrested at all, especially not 5 episodes into the season. Then we get a scene of Dexter and Isaac talking through jail phones, which is really stupid. On first watch, I just assumed that their conversation wasn't being recorded, but after doing a quick Google search, your prison calls are always recorded unless you're talking to an attorney, so this scene just does not work at all. And I don't even understand why they chose to do this. Dexter has used interrogation rooms to talk to prisoners countless amounts of times, and it probably would have taken less resources to do a scene in there anyways. Just doesn't make sense at all. Deb is mostly just covering Dexter's ass in this episode. Maria tells Deb about her theory that the Bay Harbor Butcher is still in Miami, so she goes to one of the alleged victim's family's house, and they have pictures of the night the victim went missing, Dexter being in one of these pictures. As careful as Dexter usually is, when you do something so often, you're bound to have a loose end somewhere, and Dexter's really lucky Deb saved him here. This episode definitely isn't as good as the first few in this season, but all the stuff with Isaac and Dexter is really great, besides the prison phone call scene. Number 78. A Horse of a Different Color. A great episode where we see Dexter's relationship with religion expand a lot. I know a lot of people don't like the religious theme.
All right. I really appreciate this person's work. But when we're talking about the 78th episode of a 100-episode series, calling it a really great piece of work is being very favorable. I don't think what is that? I don't think 3/4 of the Dexter episodes are very strong. Half, maybe, but got to be a little realistic about a show that, especially in the later half, didn't have the same magic it once did. Again, it's just being nitpicky about the terminology, and again goes back to the scores. I'm really getting held up on the IMDb scores
of this season, but I would assume this is more because of the Doomsday Killer, not Dexter's journey into understanding religion with Brother Sam. Although, if you're not religious, I would understand maybe being put off by this season just due to the pure amount of it. Harrison is rushed to the hospital after having a very big fever, and the doctors aren't able to tell Dexter if Harrison's going to be...
See, the problem with... I don't have a problem with having religion be a focal point of the series, but each series, they have some sort of thematic thing that they do. Have it mean something for the character. Dexter, before season 6... and after season 6 is the exact same way on how he feels about religious people and religion. There's no sort of anything built on that character. It's just like, oh, here's that year when I was really doing a lot of religious things. And anyway, on to next year. Like these, if you're going to do thematic things within a season, have it, let the character wear some sort of growth from that, is what my major complaint is about season 6.
Okay or not. And here's honestly one of the most human moments Dexter has in this entire show. The whole time Dexter is worrying so much that he eventually prays to God, which is something he would have never even thought of doing just a few episodes ago, which shows Brother Sam's positive influence on Dexter. Speaking of Sam, he comes to the hospital to show Dexter his support, and I feel like Sam is one of the best friends that Dexter has in this show. Possibly the best one. Unlike Miguel, he doesn't manipulate Dexter, and unlike someone like Angel, Dexter can actually connect to Brother Sam. He also gives us a great backstory in the waiting room, which is actually very similar to Dexter's, and I think this makes Dexter realize how much he and Sam are alike, and how Dexter was saved by Harry's code, while Sam was saved by God. Besides these scenes though, there's not too much happening in this episode. Travis continues his kills and murders some woman who he went on a date with. Deb investigates Travis, and in the final scene she discovers this woman being crucified and a trap is set off to behead her, which is pretty crazy. The scene would have been better if the CGI bees 30 seconds later weren't very obviously fake. That's about—
I think they're locusts. I think that's purposely locusts, to be fair. He eventually resorts to Nescafe. Niskif?
it for this episode. Very solid. Number 77.
303.
The Lion Sleeps Tonight. In this episode, we see Dexter solve multiple problems happening in his life currently. First, there's the Miguel/Freebo/Tegan problem. The problem basically is that Dexter killed Freebo, but he obviously can't tell anyone at the PD about this, so they continue to pursue Freebo as the prime suspect of the murders relating to Freebo. Once the guy that Deb interrogated in 302 gets murdered, we're introduced to the only villain in the entire show that gives Oliver Saxon a run for his money. The Tree Skinner. The worst part is, I think if Saxon wasn't connected to an already terrible character, wasn't the final villain of the show, and didn't have a terrible actor, then he would actually be better than the Skinner.
But the Skinner isn't even that season's villain. As someone who's understood that Hannah and Circo are kind of, I don't know, lead and supporting roles for antagonists of those seasons, I don't think, I guess it's the order in which that they're taken out in that season. I don't think the Skinner is meant to be like the villain of that season. It's an interesting twist on it with Miguel, but I wouldn't put anything above Miguel for season 3 as far as villain is concerned.
And it wouldn't even be close. Usually when you think of Dexter seasons, one of the first things that comes to your mind is that season's villain, right? I guarantee that not a single person watching this video thinks of the Tree Skinner as the first thing when season 3 is mentioned.
Well, I don't think he's meant to be the villain of the season.
He's genuinely one of the most bland TV villains I've ever seen. The season would have been better off if Freebo came back to life and became the killer instead of the Skinner.
Yeah, but so season 5 is a group of people who is technically the villain for season 5. And if you're telling me it's what's his face, tick 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 times whatever, he's in like half of that season. The Skinner isn't really in season 3 so much. It's merely an epilogue to the Miguel story because Miguel sets him up and gives him like shitty information on Dexter. I don't think it's right or fair to consider the Skinner the season 3 villain.
Anyways, Dexter's solution to getting the PD off of Freebo is to put pictures of Tegan around the town so Deb can identify her as the Jane Doe she was looking for, which is a pretty smart move on his part. Now, Miguel isn't exactly an issue at this point in the season, since every scene he has with Dexter either has them bonding or helping each other. Jimmy Smith just gives such a great performance, so all of the scenes where not much is really happening, if we're being real, gets elevated so much by his presence. Miguel.
Yeah, so because this person is friends with Dexter doesn't make them not the antagonist. I mean, these are morally gray characters to begin with. So, I mean, depending on who you are, if you were to have a side series, Dexter would be the villain to certain people or the antagonist to certain people. And we're just experiencing that character their arc go from morally gray to just outright the villain. Just because they're not the villain throughout the season doesn't mean that they aren't the villain, is what I would say.
It's very likable as well. Dexter's next problem he has to deal with is Rita's baby, who he doesn't want to be present for until Deb basically beats him into being a father, which is a really nice scene. His final problem for this episode is with some weirdo photographer PDF file. I'm sorry, I know how corny that sounds, I just don't want to get demonetized. Who keeps stalking Aster. Dexter threatens, then murders him in good old Dexter fashion. I would talk about other subplots, but the only thing to mention about Deb besides what I already said is more filler scenes with Anton. If it weren't for the Miguel scenes being really entertaining, then I probably would have gone closer to a 7 with an episode like this, since not much is happening at all. It's still great television at the end of the day, even when being inferior to other seasons. Number 76. Sin of Omission. After 7 episodes of Season 6, this is really the start of Dexter chasing after Travis and Geller. Dexter comes back from Nebraska.
Alright, so I'm noticing my my frame rate getting a little funky. I will end this at his 70th ranked episode. I mean, we've been going over an hour and a half now anyway. Unless the frame rate drops off hard. It's yellow now. It's been dipping to red every now and again. In case this does end prior to 70, it will be because of connection issues. So here we go.
And finds out that the PD are making advancements in the DDK case. So Dexter starts basically stalking Travis so he can find out more than the PD. First, he goes to the museum that Travis works at, where Travis tells him that he's done working with Geller, but he's not willing to give him up. Later on, Dexter attends Brother Sam's funeral, where he's given Sam his Bible, which he said had all the answers someone could ever need in it. While these might not have been the answers Sam was necessarily talking about, Dexter finds a Bible verse that basically says if you witness murder and don't do anything about it, you're just as bad as the murderer. Dexter presents this to Travis, and he agrees to help Dexter after he's able to get his sister out of Miami. This is the plan until Travis sees Deb at his sister's house, so his dark passenger convinces him to murder his sister and make her the woman who likes to get around of Babylon. This was a pretty sad death since Travis's
You can't say horror?
sister is honestly one of the most innocent people in this whole show. She had a tragic life and was still there for Travis the whole way through. And all she got back was her life being taken from her by the person she basically raised. Travis locks himself in the church because of what he did, but he's still convinced that Geller is the one doing all this. So once Dexter arrives, he's basically able to convince him to free him so they can catch Geller. I felt like earlier in the season when Dexter was just trusting Travis, it felt out of character for him. But now after his character developing a bit after befriending Brother Sam, I feel like Dexter probably feels some remorse for Travis and gives him the benefit of the doubt. Especially since he's, chained to the ground. One last thing about this subplot. On rewatch, when you already know the twist, it almost feels like you're watching a different show. Since every time Travis interacts or talks about Geller, you know he's just talking about himself, and it puts a completely different perspective on everything that makes Travis go from a victim to a villain.
If you watch it, if you watch the cinematography, the blocking, the way things are set up, it isn't as shocking as you would think. This is where I'm going to sound like a snob no matter what I say. I think if you keep track of how everyone interacts with Geller, it's less shocking is all I'll say.
On Deb's side, she's struggling with getting Dexter talking to her, which I don't mind. Yet, Angel is dealing with Jamie dating Lewis, and he literally lies to him by basically saying that Jamie likes to get around, just so Lewis stays away from her. Listen, I wouldn't want my sister near this weirdo either, but ruining her relationship over this is pretty weird if we're being honest. Angel is way too protective. Very good episode. Really, only for the Travis and Dexter scenes, though. Number 75. Ricochet Rabbit. Season 6 has a random high that just goes back to pretty good episodes like this. What I will say is the Dexter and Travis plot is obviously very good. We now know that Geller doesn't actually exist and Travis is just a demented Christian weirdo, shown by when he's screaming at thin air in the beginning of the episode. After 9 episodes of Travis talking to Geller, it's really interesting to see how the non-existent dynamic actually looks in everyone else's perspective.
Yeah, but something that they really could have hammered home is the fact that Dexter does this with Harry. Again, it's something that isn't new to us as an audience.
Travis is still convinced that Doomsday has to happen, so he collects some guy called Doomsday Adam and his wife to carry out Wormwood with him. They kidnap the poor woman Travis let go a few episodes ago, and Travis casually slits her throat, which is brutal. Dexter is able to make it on the boat where they're planning to end the world, but by the time he gets there, the only guy there is Doomsday Adam, who Dexter kills. Here, Dexter decides to finally do the right thing for once.
Who that actor is the guy who sells pot in the Friday the 13th remake? And is where Jason gets his mask?
And calls the police instead of leaving it all to himself. An action completely inspired by Brother Sam. Meanwhile, Travis and Adam's wife are busy kidnapping Angel, which only gets good in the next episode, so I don't really care about it yet. Travis's friends are very strange, but it's still pretty entertaining and intense seeing Travis try to end the world while everybody's chasing him. The only thing is, everything else in this episode isn't too crazy, like the Matthews subplot of him being with a prostitute. If any of you genuinely care about this subplot, please let me know down below. Deb's scenes with her therapist are pretty solid, but nothing crazy. And then there's Lewis. This guy has been foaming from the mouth for Dexter for the last few episodes, and he's finally able to show him his game here, but Dexter calls his game offensive since it's glorifying serial killers. There's genuinely no way that the writers couldn't have written a better subplot than this. One of the worst in the whole show solely due to how fucking stupid it is. And the fact that the writers try to make him a villain later is even worse. No one in the world thinks this guy is a threat to Dexter.
But the problem is he's like designing a video game, and I think Dexter, like his reaction to that is, I think that's offensive. And it's Dexter who's saying that. Like, we know to be able to challenge that character and be like, dude, you do this. What are you talking about? This is offensive. Are you just like, fucking pretending to be offended by this shit? Or if the show had taken the moment to spin it around and challenge the character of Dexter, like, are you serious? Are you really offended by this? Or are you bothered that, this guy's like looking into your shit? Like, this is what I'm talking about, how they present these opportunities to like really dig deep in some of the psyche and the pros and cons of this vigilante storyline. And they just back out of them so many times. He said something a bit contradictory earlier, that Dexter's dad made him a psycho, but his dad also saved him. Any thoughts that I miss here? Surely there was another way to save him. I guess on the whole, the umbrella statement is Harry never should have told Dexter this. And I think his dad saving him is to mean that if he was going to off people, might as well do bad people who deserve it rather than just, innocents. I think both can be true.
Honestly, not the best follow-up to an episode like 609. Number 74. Beauty and the Beast. Here's the main episode to introduce us to Lumen, who is one of the only interesting new characters in this whole season. I don't really like Lumen that much in the first few episodes she's in, and I'll touch more on that later, but I do really like everything surrounding her character. Just not her, if that makes any sense. Here we see Dexter spend all of his time keeping Lumen locked in a cabin so she can't escape and tell the police about him, while also finding out as much about her as he can. The first few times Lumen interacts with Dexter, she tries to run away because she thinks that he's like Boyd, but he tries to convince her that he's nothing like him. And it really takes the whole episode for Lumen to finally trust Dexter. She is a rape victim at the end of the day, and later on when you see the way that these men treated her, then the way she reacts here becomes completely understandable. Eventually, Lumen is able to escape and run away, but Dexter is right behind her and is able to tie her to a chair in his car. He then drives to the pond where Boyd dumped his victims to show Lumen, and to prove to her that he's trying to help her. Especially when he gives her his knife and lets her stab him without fighting back. Lumen apologizes after this, then tells Dexter that Boyd wasn't the only one who raped her, which perfectly sets up the rest of this season. I think this was probably the best way the writers could have gone about pretending like Rita never existed, while still having the plot make sense.
This is where I think we get disconnected with the subject matter of the show, because they cover such dark material as a vigilante killer. Sexual assault is a very traumatic experience, and doing killers is one thing, but assault of that nature that has a long-lasting traumatic effect. I'm not one to say one way or another, but I feel like maybe they didn't properly respect how a victim of that, how that would affect them moving forward. But again, I wouldn't know.
Dexter gets distracted by Lumen, which is a situation in his life only comparable to maybe Doak's, but even then it's incredibly different. Then once Dexter mainly deals with that issue, he's presented with multiple killers and rapists who have ruined Lumen's and many other innocent women's lives, so Dexter really has no choice in the matter. I still don't like how they mainly ignore Rita, but this is a good way of doing so without the writing being completely sabotaged. I do really like the Lumen stuff here, but I've said basically all there is to say, which shows why this episode isn't higher rated. There's just not a lot that happens. And even with the other subplots, it's a pretty uneventful episode. Deb joins a SWAT mission to take a killer down, but he ends up slitting an innocent man's throat because Deb didn't shoot him in time. The guy ends up surviving, but Deb is pretty fucked up about it, and that's really it for her. The only other person to really talk about in this episode is Quinn, who is using his major intelligence and insane detective skills to link Dexter to Kyle Butler. Okay, that was a half-lie. Yes, Quinn is connecting Dexter to Kyle Butler, but it's not really because he's smart or anything. I think it's pretty obvious that he's not as smart as Deb or even Angel. He just clearly had something against Dexter. Then when the tragedy happened, he was the only one not really affected since he doesn't like Dexter. So he was able to see through the facade and become suspicious of the whole thing. To further prove my point of Quinn being pretty stupid at certain points, the FBI tells him multiple times that he's not allowed to talk to Jonah Mitchell unless he gives whatever he wants to show him to the FBI agent himself. And he proceeds to follow the FBI to a gas station that Jonah is buying food at to confront him. And what do you know, Quinn is almost instantly caught, scolded, and I mean scolded by Maria, and placed on unpaid suspension. You would think this would get Quinn to back off on Dexter, but nah, he still doesn't like the guy very much. This episode would benefit from being more eventful, but it's already pretty great on its own. Number 73. Everything is illuminated. This episode is probably lower than a lot of you would expect it to be. I think this episode is more entertaining than a lot of the episodes I gave around the same score, but I gotta be honest, I just really don't like Lumen at this point in the show. I don't know if this is crazy to say, but Lumen has genuinely annoyed me more than Lila on my rewatch so far, and I'm only
How can you dislike Lila? What is happening here? Did he say he liked Lila or Hannah more than he likes Lila?
halfway through season 5. Post season 5 rewatch, she wasn't really annoying after this point in the show. I guess she was still technically more annoying than Lila.
No, false. Automatically incorrect takes from here forward.
She was at least annoying earlier in the season. Lila, I didn't really think was that annoying on rewatch, to be honest. I know she was a rape victim.
I retract some of my vigor.
And I obviously feel sympathy for her, but Dexter is doing so much to help her, and she barely even seems grateful at all. She just has this ego throughout the first half of the season that pisses me off. I promise I don't hate women, she's just annoying. Also,
again, it's a very delicate thing to handle that subject matter of someone going through trauma. And this is why I would say maybe don't do that if you're not strong enough to write characters like that.
So Dexter tells her not to stay in Miami and kill her abusers, and I'm not mad at Lumen for going against Dexter, and I completely understand why she wants to do such a thing, but if you're gonna do that, then don't immediately involve the guy who clearly doesn't want to be involved. Basically, while Dexter is out doing a kill, Lumen finds and shoots someone who she thinks raped her. She then calls Dexter asking for help, so he puts his kill on hold to go help Lumen. When Dexter gets there, Lumen starts arguing with him, acting like she didn't just call him asking for help, and like he didn't save her life a few episodes ago. Hopefully you guys understand where I'm coming from, because I do feel bad for complaining about a character that went through such terrible shit, but I really just don't like her. At least Julia Stiles gives a good performance. Dexter tracks down the guy Lumen shot, and he tries convincing Dexter that he has nothing to do with raping Lumen. Dexter gives the guy the benefit of the doubt until he's caught calling someone on Lumen's phone reporting that she's alive, so Dexter snaps his neck. After this, two problems arise that Dexter is able to knock out with one stone. The guy who Dexter was planning to kill earlier breaks out of his car and starts running away, just as the police are about to find the crime scene. Dexter thinks on his feet and brings the guy to the crime scene, shoots him before the cops get there, then makes it look like he just arrived on the scene and is looking at a murder-suicide. This is super smart and works very well.
All right. So for comedic purposes, it's funny because I think that's when Masuka explains Emily loves whatever it is, his explanation of autoerotic, this whatever. It's a very funny thing, enough so that Mrs. Scredia is we'll quote it at any given point, but the manner in which things are very very conveniently all within the same place at the same time is enough that I would put this episode pretty low. Without having, I don't know, without having the freshness of each episode in my head, I do remember on a rewatch this episode in particular, for the sake of contrivance, for things happening all at the same time and being very, very convenient, it really bends your ability to put up with and believe all of these things happening at the same place at the same time, and everything happening in the order in which it does without any real dramatic push as it does. So I without having a fresh memory of it, I think this would be low for me.
Since Deb and Masuka don't think anything of it. Later on, Lumen goes to Rita's house, and Dexter finally agrees to kill Lumen's other abusers. Like I said, this episode is very entertaining. Lumen just annoys me too much to put it any higher.
Yeah, so entertaining and redeeming or rewarding are very different, in my opinion. It is entertaining, like I said, that there's things that are said here that get quoted in this house quite a bit. But I guess rewatchability would count entertaining. The believability, the redemption of this story, feeling worth it and not insulting, is not there, is what I would say about that episode. Louise, good morning. Yeah, I figured this is a very long project, so get some of it out of the way now before I eat lunch.
There's nothing much with the other subplots. Deb and Quinn's relationship is getting more serious, and Angel Maria are... Great episode, though. Number 72. Just Let Go. Another great Season 6 episode that focuses on the relationship of Dexter and Brother Sam. But sadly, the end of it with this episode. Dexter gets very angry that Brother Sam was shot, and he starts to realize that he can actually feel emotions and isn't a complete psychopath. Dexter eventually finds out that Nick was the one to shoot Sam, and
more than likely haven't gone to bed yet. That is actually not true. I woke up a little while ago. That is actually not true this time.
Right after this, he gains consciousness and asks the doctors to speak to Dexter. He tells Sam that he knows Nick shot him, but Sam's only request is that Dexter tell Nick that Sam forgives him for what he did. A few hours later, and Sam sadly passes away. Great character. Dexter then goes to the beach with Nick, where he tells him that he knows he shot Sam. And Nick explains to him that he felt like Christianity was bullshit, and that he felt like Sam was lying to him. And also that the only way his old friends would accept him back into their group was if he shot Sam. Dexter then tells Nick that Sam has passed, and he seems sad for a second, but soon realizes that he'll never be arrested for doing what he did, and he starts laughing in Dexter's face. Dexter really wanted to keep Sam's wish true, but as much as Sam did bring good things to Dexter's personality, Dexter is still Dexter at the end of the day, so he finally lets all of this built-up anger out and drowns Nick in the ocean. Right after doing this, he sees Brian fucking Moser giving him a round of applause. This obviously leads to the mostly filler episode in Nebraska, but I still do like the character development in that episode, and sort of the what-if situation that shows what Dexter's life would have really been if he made a different decision in the Season 1 finale. This is all great, and the stuff at the PD is pretty good as well. I think we can all agree that after Season 5, the PD scenes aren't on the same level.
PD? Police Department? I'm in the minority here, but I couldn't get past Season 4 of Dexter, which is such a pity because it was good. Yeah, that's probably a good season to stop after 4. My God, have you actually converted to the time zone you're in, Shocker? No, I have not done that. This is an abnormality is what happened.
Since Deb being the lieutenant just makes everything feel a bit weird. But the stuff in this episode is pretty good. Angel and Quinn realize that the teacher Quinn fucked in the last episode might have been directly related to the Doomsday killings, so they bring her in for questioning, and Angel does the interview alone. When Deb realizes this, she makes Quinn go into the interrogation room, which makes everything a whole lot worse. When the teacher gets fed up with Angel's condescending questions, she mentions her hookup with Quinn, then leaves. Deb obviously gets fucking pissed about this, as does Quinn, since the only reason all this is even happening is because of their breakup. Later on, Deb hosts a party at her new house, and Quinn acts like a complete asshole there. He brings a random girl, is incredibly drunk, and starts very rudely hitting on Jamie until getting punched in the face by Angel and kicked out of the party. Speaking of this party, this is where probably the weirdest relationship in all of Dexter starts. Jamie and Lewis. It's pointless and just doesn't really make any sense at all. Just a way for Lewis to talk to Dexter more.
Yeah, again, contrivance. You write something not for its purpose. You write something or introduce something because you need something else to happen. Usually they do it backwards. Like, wouldn't it be great for this? Yeah, all right, let's do that. What do we do after that? I don't know. Have something else bail this situation out because we just want this cool thing, but I don't know what to do with it after the cool thing happened. It's kind of the inverse of that, where they're like, we have these characters that, yeah, they're good for fluff, but how do we make them valid? Oh yeah, have this one be here for some sort of reason to connect to Dexter. I mean, it's the way you're supposed to write filler characters like this, but second half of Dexter.
Or I guess. This is more of a nitpick, though. Great writing all throughout this episode.
Slow down. Slow down with that G word.
Number 71. Hello, Bandit. For being the first episode not completely focused on the death of Rita, it's a little strange. I would have given it an 8.5 because the scenes with Dexter dealing with Rita's death are great, specifically the ones with Aster and Cody. Of course, the both of them are very upset about what just happened, but Aster specifically doesn't want to interact with Dexter at all. They're forced to live in Dexter's cramped apartment alongside Deb, when the both of them just want to go back to their house. Dexter does the right thing and tries keeping them away, but they end up sneaking out and going there anyway. Aster thinks that this will help her, but it ends up making her hate Dexter even more, and she demands to live with her grandparents in Orlando. Cody really wants to stay with Dexter, but Dexter understands the consequences of separating parentless siblings from each other due to his past, so he makes the very mature decision and forces Cody to live with his grandparents as well. All of this stuff is really good, and besides that, the police work is entertaining as always. But to me, Dexter just...
The police work is entertaining as always? That's a very favorable take. The police work is entertaining as always. Oh my God, you need to watch some more NYPD Blue and SVU and Law and Order and all that other junk. Yeah, so I think a way that feels redeeming to the series, if you were to, because you're running out of alive characters that make Dexter truly feel the emotions that he should, considering all the people that he's cost their lives with his actions. You bring back Aster and Cody and have them, make Dexter feel the guilt that he should, because, for the first couple of seasons, Rita and those kids are a certain way. Dexter was born in blood because of what happened to his mother. You can wrap all of this up and tie it in a somewhat neat bow where you have Aster and Cody make Dexter realize that no matter what it is that he's doing and what he's done to, undo the things that he experienced as a kid, he's created it all over again with them. And this is a sick cycle and it needs to end, which is kind of what I thought they were trying to do with New Blood. But again, they're not the best at executing good ideas.
Moves on way too quickly after Rita's death. I mean, he was literally saying her eulogy last episode, and now he's back to dedicating his life to murdering killers, which is, the thing that got Rita killed. Now, I'm not saying they should have made Dexter just stop killing. I mean, they definitely could have gone that direction, but I don't think it was necessary at this point in the show. But I wish there was some kind of fight that Dexter gives to the urge for at least a few episodes until something happens where he feels like he genuinely needs to kill, or else there will be consequences.
Agreed.
But nah. He coincidentally sees a stain that looks like blood in a moving truck. Then he connects it to a guy named Boyd Fowler, and what do you know, he's a serial killer. Not only is Dexter immediately going back to his double life lazy writing, but him even finding out about this killer is as well. Aster even says in this episode,
"It looks exactly the same as before. You can't even tell what happened."
So the writers are pretty much just saying, yeah, we know we're basically just going to pretend like Rita never existed, and you should too.
Yeah, so that's an issue I have. If you're going to give the writers crap for that, you can't also say this is great. Sorry, but if it has glaring issues, it has glaring issues. Entertaining is one thing. Fun, characters you want to see is great and all. But I'm sorry, every time Nicolas Cage pops on screen is not a 9 out of 10. I'm sorry.
Talk about the other plots quickly. Deb and Quinn are developing their relationship, which I don't mind too much. It's pretty entertaining seeing Quinn try to playfully push Deb into a relationship in certain scenes. We also get confirmation that Quinn owns a Nintendo Wii, and even uses the nunchuck. I'd have to assume he was either playing Mario Galaxy or Wii Boxing, but Quinn definitely seems more like a Wii Boxing guy. Angel and Maria have some argument because Maria didn't tell Angel about her savings account since she thought he would spend the money on drinks. And that's exactly what he does. I don't think there's a single episode in this entire show that I actually care about this subplot. Still a very well done episode overall, but I wish the writing was a bit better. Number 70. Blinded by the Light. Worst season 4 episode, but still very entertaining for the most part. The reason why it's the worst is mainly because of the subplot, well, main plot, of this episode, where Dexter tries to catch the guy that's been vandalizing his neighborhood. He thinks it's this loser pedo guy named Jesse, but it ends up being his dad, who Dexter threatens with the mask on, exactly like Batman would do. Dexter
Pedo guy? Is he even... I don't even think he's 18. That kid?
also gets pissed at the security lights that are all over this episode, and at the end he breaks one of them, but gets caught by Rita. Not that this is one of the worst cliffhangers of the show, but it is a pretty lame one, I can't lie. But everything else about this episode is really good. And I'm not saying that was a bad plot or anything, just not entirely needed. Obviously, John Lithgow once again steals the show. I'll get more into his performances later, but every scene of him is so spine-chilling, and the only times in the show where the villain actually feels scary to the viewer. Maybe besides Brian in a few cases. Trinity murders an innocent woman by forcing her to jump off a balcony, which gets investigated by Lundy and the PD. Lundy, Deb, and Dexter are convinced that the kill was a homicide, while everyone else thinks it's a suicide. The episode actually makes a clear distinction between these three and the rest, like when Lundy tells Dexter that he's actually similar to Trinity in the sense of feeling the most enjoyment from something that's not human interaction, which for him is hunting serial killers. And while not in the sense of morality, he believes that he and Trinity are the same kind of person, where their meanings of life are something out of the ordinary. And obviously Dexter can't say anything, but this is exactly how he feels too. As well as Deb to a certain point, since she empathizes with Dexter when he doesn't want to interact with his family, since she also has gotten tired of Anton, even though he's done nothing but be great to her. Besides being a Skinner victim, this is really the only purpose I can think of for Anton existing in the show. And even then, that doesn't mean he needed the amount of scenes that he got in season 3. Deb feels like she loves Anton, but as soon as Frank Lundy comes back into town, she can't get him out of her head, and is getting tired of Anton, even though she already convinced herself that she loves him. It's just really great to see Lundy back in Miami to work such an interesting case. And like I've already said, no matter what's actually developing story-wise, I'll always love the earlier seasons just for the vibe alone, which this season captures much better than the previous in my opinion. By that, I don't mean like the overall vibe of the season, because season 3 actually has one of my favorite vibes, like with the summer and Miguel and seeing Rita and Sil and everything. I just mean like the dark atmosphere of Dexter, like cruising, you know, around nighttime Miami, you know, like searching for his victims. That type of vibe is what I mean. I don't mean the overall vibe. Number 6.
All right. So we're gonna hit the brakes on this right now. There's still 4 hours, 17 minutes, and 34 seconds left here. We're going to pause at 69. I'm going to write this 3:05. Nice. Pause at 69. So yeah, it looks like I've dropped 10,000 frames, which is a lot. That's multiple minutes of this 2-hour stream. All of it appears as if this person, again, DJ, the link to the video is in the description. Go over there and give all the credit in the world, because it looks like he's using footage from the episodes that he's discussing. I don't know 100%, but I'm 90% confident that he is. And just for the editing alone, that's impressive work. There's a couple here that I probably don't agree with and discuss them when they came up. I don't think there's one season 4 episode. There's 3 or 4 season 5. There's a season 3 episode. Most of the 8th season and 6th season. The fact that he's not doing the spin-offs, I guess, kind of adds to things, but it'll make a little bit more sense as this fills out. But I need to understand what his grading system is and what it is he's looking for most from this series. Like, valuing the police department stuff is interesting. Like the thing that got me into the show my partner at the time watched things like Law and Order, SVU, those police drama things. Like I watched Nurse Jackie, she watched House, and there is some sort of misconnect there. I watched horror movies, and she watched NYPD Blue, and then came along this Dexter show that kind of bridged the two in some interesting way and won both of us over. And towards the end, well, a lot of people kind of lost faith in Dexter in those last couple of seasons. But I was kind of foolish about it when it was happening. Like, nah, this is fine. And on multiple watches, no, it's really not fine. But on rewatches, the police drama stuff is probably the least strong in my opinion. It feels the most shoehorned in. And I find myself being drawn to a lot of the drama. See, I wanted to say trauma, and I meant to say drama. The dramatic elements, the emotions. One of the last episodes that was ranked there, he talked about Deb and her relationship with Lundy. I think the interesting thing is all of these relationships and how they should have emotionally weighed down on Dexter's character does happen with Deb's character. I feel like the show writers they have like this I don't know, consolation prize where it's like, yeah, we know that you recognize that there are feelings that this Dexter character should have. We're not going to do that, but we're going to have those same feelings, and Deb's going to experience them. And Deb appeared to be like this Swiss Army knife for any sort of emotions that a character should have had, any sort of heartache and hardships. It was always apparently Deb's character that was going through that stuff. And the fact that Lundy gets taken out and Deb really wears that is, I don't know, like the fact that that couldn't happen with Dexter. I think they didn't try hard enough. Dennis says, I have every single episode of Dexter and haven't seen a single one of them. You have every single one but haven't seen one? And of course, House over Nurse Jackie. Yeah, they're different kind of shows, as I guess what I was trying to say. Nurse Jackie's like light. Like you could, if you put either on, you could see immediately that they're light. They're different. Like the fact that Breaking Bad was going on at the same time as Dexter. Dexter is a very vibrant looking show, well, towards the end at least. And Breaking Bad is very moody, very dark. The same thing can be said for House and Nurse Jackie. Nurse Jackie's vibrant, and the mood is certainly one thing as opposed to the other. But I think Dexter has ingredients, and when it works, it's fantastic. And when it doesn't, it's frustrating because the ingredients are there. And like I said, the fact that they have these emotional things happen with Deb's character proves to us that they know how to do these things. They know how to write these things. They know how to set up these situations. But the fact that we don't really get it through the perception or through Dexter himself, his character, is kind of a cop-out. There are multiple times where they bring up these things that, I don't know, a deeper written show would try to tackle. There are multiple times where they've tried to discuss the wage difference. There are multiple times that they discuss religion. There are multiple times where they discuss the celebrity of, killers and things like that. And like I said earlier about Dexter being offended by the video game, the fact that they can acknowledge that people feel that way, but not acknowledge the fact that your character is a vigilante killer, but he's offended by someone making a video game about this stuff. Like, that's hypocrisy personified. And the fact that like that's it. That's where any sort of furthering of that subject ends. It's frustrating because they show you that they know how to do some of this. They show you that they're thinking about it, and then they just kind of give you blue balls with a lot of these subjects, and it's a letdown. What I will say is, Dennis, I would advise watching, at the very least, watch the first 4 seasons, especially if you own them. They're, you're not going to get hit anyway. If you like have to watch them at your own pace. If they are in your house and physically own them at your own pace, the first 4 seasons, however you're feeling at that moment, that's however you're feeling. There's a dip between seasons 2 and 4. 3 is okay. I would say 1's great, 2's great, 4 is probably the best. And then ride the wave however you think to approach that. It's rough sledding, seasons 5 through 8. New Blood is different, but it ends horribly. And the prequel series, Original Sin, if you like fan service, it's a prequel series with fan service. And Resurrection is probably the closest thing to the first 4 seasons as far as feeling good about the show is concerned. Some people would say it's amongst the best. I would say let that feeling die down a little bit first, because I think it's just everything's new and not horrible that people are just like, oh my God, it's back. Our show is so back. I don't think it's that strong, but it's the strongest it's been in a very long time. But that's a lot of nonsense to be sitting through for six seasons to get to Resurrection. But I digest. All right, so I don't know when the next part is going to be. Like I said, there's over 4 hours left of this video. Major kudos to DJ. I have a lot of movies to watch for October. I'll try to get this done before then, but stay tuned.